Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I am Anara Tabashalieva, along with co-host Dr. Victor Fett, Dr. Katerina Shrey, and our program producer, Professor Larry Sherey. We host a weekly discussion panel on Russia's war on Ukraine with guests from Ukraine, military experts, medical personnel, academics, artists, literary figures, and relief workers. Our panel is recorded and circulated nationally and internationally. We appreciate your comments and feedback. Special thanks to Marshall University Libraries and MUIT for making this weekly event possible. If you are joining us live on Teams, please feel free to use the chat to post any questions for our guests. A quick greetings to our viewers in Ukraine from Dr. Katerina Shrey.
Вітаємо наших слухачів в Україні з глибоким поклоном. Ми далі свідки вашого страшного терпіння і також вашої великої сили. Дякую вам за вашу участь в нашій тижневій програмі.
Thank you, Katerina. Today's guest will be introduced by Dr. Victor Fett.
Thank you, Anara. It's my pleasure to welcome back with their report our friends from local Huntington, West Virginia, and tri-state area of Ohio and Kentucky. This is Tri-State Aid for Ukraine Sunflower Seeds, a local group. We will have report from John Yeager here on the current activity of this charity group and some announcements today. Thank you, John. Microphone is yours, please, and everyone else in the group.
Thank you, Victor, and everyone else who's listening in. We continue to be excited by our activities and things that are going on here in Huntington. We had a marking of the fourth year at war in Ukraine at First United Methodist Church here in Huntington. We had about 30 people. It was a nice low-key event focused on prayer, which is so sorely needed in this current situation. Much thanks to Allie, the office manager there, and Pastor Scott Sears. We also attended recently, actually last Saturday, it's called the First Saturday Art Fest here in Huntington at the West Edge factory, part of the Coalfield development in the West End. Great people, good turnout. We raised about $1,000. Great opportunity for awareness there as well. Just some kind of catch-up notes. We continue our tremendous partnership with Anastasia Bard and the Helping Hands for Ukraine group in Ridgewood, New Jersey. We have donated to them close to $30,000. We're their largest single contributor by a factor of 2. We have also reacquainted ourselves with our partners in Orange, France. Since Sandrine is on, I'd like her to speak to that briefly, and then I'll pick up with some other activities. Sandrine, can you turn your mic and screen on, or camera on, and talk to that issue? Thank you.
Certainly. So we have had a recent request and a fantastic response from the Sunflower Seeds membership. So the request from Orange in France, so in terms of background, our connection to Orange goes back to the months following the invasion of Ukraine. And at that time, the first weeks, a flow of refugees crossed the border with Poland. And there is a Polish town called Yaroslavl. and Yaroslav happens to be the sister city of my hometown, which is in the southeast of France called Orange. And when Yaroslav found itself overwhelmed with the flow of refugees coming from Ukraine, they reached out to Orange and asking for help. So the first few convoys that were prepared from Orange with humanitarian help was targeting the refugees, the Ukrainian refugees in Yaroslav, mostly elderly, disabled children. That was with the support of the Orange City Hall and all this organization. But quickly, the official sponsored humanitarian initiative stopped, but a group of people from Orange wanted to continue to help through Yaroslav, through those connections, and through the connections through Ukraine. So for the 6 or 7 trips that followed, the trucks were loaded with medical equipment, food, and medications at the request of Ukrainians that would, and that all these supplies were going by truck to Yaroslav, and Ukrainian would come and pick it up from Yaroslav. And as you can see, we've been able to reach out all the way to the front line, basically to the brave fighters, Ukrainian fighters. And mainly what Sunflower Seeds have been able to do to facilitate, and it's been very critical, is to provide financial support for diesel fuel for the trucks to reach, it's about 2,000 kilometers from Orange to Yaroslav, so there is a cost involved there. The Orange Group has been very efficient in gathering support from anywhere from local hospital to local supermarket to find very valuable support for the Ukrainian, but cash is hard to come by. And in that respect, the generosity of the tri-state area of Huntington community has been spectacular, and we've been able to help support. John, tell me if I'm mistaken, but I would say 4 or 5 trips to Yaroslav at this point.
Yeah, I think well, we've supported 2 trips, 5 and 6, but then of course there's been a long delay for
we've been contributing 7. And yeah.
All good. So along those lines, we put out an e-blast here recently, and that we've secured, I think, $750 just in one day, which is tremendous. Maybe more than that. I've got to go back and check, but plus the $1,000 we raised Saturday. So we're more than halfway home in meeting our $3,000 objective. Also, if anybody's listening, you can go to www.sunflowerseedstristate.com. www.sunflowerseedstristate.com, and we have a donation button there. We'd like to raise that $3,000 without having to dip into our ready reserve, if possible. Also, speaking along the lines of money, again, great thanks to Dr. Mark Subik. After about 1.5 years of trying to bust through the bureaucracy here at local hospitals, and to obtain unused medical supplies, Dr. Subik, who is associated both with Valley Health, Marshall Health, and Cabell, was able to start collecting unused medical supplies. And we were astounded. We have two students, Ryan and Colin. We tasked Ryan with developing a spreadsheet showing the value of those medical supplies, and thank goodness we kept pretty good records on everything we were sending. Oh, by the way, we're up to about 117 boxes that we've sent, but the value of that material to date is $93,000. We were blown away. Much of this material would have ended up in the trash. Some of it was nearly expired. Some of it was just stuff they didn't use in operations. Just coincidentally, when you have a certain type of procedure, maybe it's your left shoulder, there's a bag for the operating room called left shoulder, and in it is gowns and drapes and sutures and tubes and needles and blah blah blah, scalpels, and the doctor may use a scalpel out of it, and the rest becomes trash. And those are valued at sometimes $2,000 to $4,000. So it doesn't take long for that stuff to add up. So we're very happy about that, and we have used both Cleveland Medan. That was our first trip, our first delivery, and then subsequently we have partnered with Little Wing Relief Works in Athens, Ohio. They're great people. They send everything in these 40-foot containers that end up traveling via ship to Lithuania and then by train into Kyiv to the UA First Aid. The materials from Cleveland Medan go to the Ukrainian Health Ministry. And again, as I said, we continue to work with our friends. When we get cash donations, then that cash is either provided to Orange or Helping Hands for Ukraine, where I guess it was maybe almost 2 years ago, we adopted Cuba as our medic, our adopted frontline medic. Cuba's been at this since 2014. And we did not know that at the time that there was a documentary being made about her and her partner, work partner, Alaska. And subsequently, they have developed a wonderful film, a 90-minute film that won Best Documentary in Rome. It won 2 awards in Brussels, and it won the Best Documentary in Central Scotland. It was also recently seen at the Santa Barbara Film Festival, which is a big deal just to be asked to be there. And we're very excited to announce that we will be showing that film. Actually, before I was on this call, I was doing the currency conversion because we've had to pay some money, and it changes very quickly. So anyway, that's neither here nor there. The point is, we've got the film, and everybody here online is invited for a private viewing, no cost, at Marshall University on March 28th, 7 o'clock. Thanks to Marshall Libraries for providing refreshments. And again, that's at 7 o'clock at the Marshall University Library on March 28th. Then one of our greatest benefactors have been the men and women at the Woodlands, which is a retirement community here. And I've been looking for something to show up there as a way to give back. So we'll be showing that on April 3rd. If you can't make the March 28th viewing, you're invited to come up to the Woodlands on April 3rd. That will be at 6 o'clock. And then finally, our public viewing, because of the theater being used for other things, we've had to wait until April 25th at 7 o'clock, which is a Saturday, and April 26th is a Sunday at 2:30. That'll be at the Alchemy Theater, the old Geneva Kent Elementary here in Huntington. We're asking 25 per couple, 50, or excuse me, 25 per couple, 15 for singles, and 10 for students. Again, thanks to Alchemy Theater, their normal rent is $500. They charge us $50, so they're great people up there. We are extremely excited about this film. I've actually incorporated into a sermon I'm giving this Sunday. But this is not entertainment, okay? This is not an entertainment film. This is a documentary about real people in a real war with real consequences. And it's about 90 minutes long. It's about 2 Ukrainian women serving as medics on the front line. The 2 friends try to hold on to fragments of the normal life they had before, hoping they can go back when the war is done. Cuba is a fashion designer of note, and Alaska is an illustrator. As I mentioned, Cuba is also our adopted medic. The movie is about real people in real war, so expect coarse language, violence, and death. So it's not unlike the days when shepherds defended their flocks from predators and thieves. This Sunday's scripture is Psalm 23. The film shows what these words from Psalm 23 really look like. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I am not afraid. And one of the quotes from the movie, Alaska says, she says she's more afraid of failing than dying. I saw the movie about over a week ago. Obviously, I'm still processing it. So I'm going to pass it over to Bob to give us a little update. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I don't want to take too much time. I've been on here fairly recently. Just a few thoughts about where the war is now, and in some ways almost more hopeful. The narrative in 2025 was pretty bad, that Ukraine was on the defensive and it was a matter of time. After the withdrawal of American aid early in this administration, in Trump's second term, it looked like Ukraine could be in trouble. Ukraine survived 2025, survived that. And now the easiest way to describe what's happening, and I think everybody here is aware of this, is that we have a war of attrition all along that gigantic front that curves like a fish hook in Ukraine. The Russians have made gains, that's true, but they have made gains at such an enormous cost. Seth Jones has studied this and compared it, the rate of advance per casualty that the Russians suffer to what the British suffered at the Battle of the Somme in 1916. And if you know anything about the Battle of the Somme, it was a horrific catastrophe for Britain. Well, 60,000 guys on the first day of the battle. So while that narrative had taken hold, I think the Russian casualties are beginning to mount up. And I mean, you're now talking about 1.2, maybe more, maybe as many as 1.5 million Russian casualties, 350, 400,000, probably in the 350,000 range dead, although that's actually a bit controversial too. So they've done this at just an enormous cost. And in the last month or so, Ukraine has begun to fight back. And actually in Dnipropetrovsk, sorry, I wanted to try to get that right, especially with this audience. And in Zaporizhia, they've actually been able to make some progress. It's limited progress. Nothing is happening rapidly. So what you have is a war of attrition, and I think Ukraine has gotten through this valley of difficulty. I don't want to call it the valley of death. And then when you get into these wars of attrition, just like World War I, I mean, you have trench warfare, but at the same time, you've got this weird 21st century aspect to it with drones everywhere, drones providing a huge percentage of the casualties. Still massed artillery like World War I, but there's this 21st century aspect with drones and also the missile war that's gone on. And Ukraine survived that after the withdrawal of American air defenses, American Patriot aid, and those kind of things. They were still able to survive what was a very difficult winter. And two things I take away from this. One is just the enormous grit and courage of Ukrainian people. I am just blown away by it. And I mean, what John talked about just a second ago is just emblematic of that. And the second thing is how innovative they are. The Ukrainians are now the world's leader in drone technology. They are teaching the United States military this at this very moment. So they have survived this. How long will this war go on? I don't know. But Russia is beginning to feel the bite of this. Not just the casualties, but the Russian economy has gone wobbly. Now that may be changing. And I haven't talked about the war with Iran, the war in the Gulf now. If somebody wants to ask a question about that, that's not really the subject of this podcast, but I'd be glad to tell you what I think about that if somebody has a question. The Russian economy has been suffering and gone wobbly. High oil prices could change that. And that entirely depends on the length of this war, how long this war goes on. If this war goes on for more than a few more weeks, you're going to see oil prices escalate dramatically. And that could help Russia prolong the war effort. And the other thing, and this is a bit related, is that Russia's made it very clear that Russia's not a friend. Not a friend of the United States. Russia is aiding Iran. They have helped them with targeting. In particular, what has struck me is that they've been able to hit 3 THAAD missile radars. THAAD is the terminal high altitude air defense system that you use to shoot down ballistic missile warheads when they come through the last phase of the flight, the terminal phase. It's a very advanced system. Just a THAAD radar is $500 million. And they're incredibly complicated. They're helping them with that to the point where we've had to take our THAAD systems out of South Korea and are now beginning to move them to the Gulf. Russia's aiding the Iranian war effort. And now Ukraine is aiding the American war effort. The Ukrainians are showing us how to use these very cheap drones that can hunt down the Iranian drones. And so they're now contributing to the American war effort. So I think it's clear that this shows that Ukraine is, on the side of right here. If I know everybody on here knows that, but I think to every American, including the folks in administration, that should be absolute proof that the United States should resume aid to Ukraine and that Russia has nothing but ill intent toward the United States.
Yeah, Bob, I wanted to verify what we talked about the other night. We fired 2 Patriot missiles to take down a $30,000 Shahad drone. The Ukrainians have been, and the cost of that is about $8 million per Patriot missile.
It's crazy.
So, or no, maybe it's anyway. Yeah,
it's about 4 million. I think a missile for 2. I think it's 8.
Yeah, the total. Yeah, two equals 8 million. I believe is right. And then, but the Ukrainians have been able to produce these similar anti-aircraft, anti-drone missiles for I think $4,000 a piece. So, check the math on that while while I go on with something else here. I wanted to just, for the record, we tried to get a article in an online publication that reaches out to a million people. It's called Reasons to Feel Good, and we failed. Well, I don't know if we failed. We didn't get selected. That was their mistake. However, one of their pitch criteria was, how can your nonprofit be replicated? And that led us to work on an how-to manual. And I want to give credit to Ryan, one of our interns, who's been working real hard on that. We're almost done with that. If anybody out there is in a community where they think they can rally some folks together to get to work on something like what we've done here, we will come and we will present our how-to manual in written and in person. Also, Colin, our other intern, and this is through the Marshall Herd Work program, which has been terrific. They get paid and then we get paid for working with them. It's a great win-win-win. Colin is working on an archival material that'll be used in a subsequent video documentary for us. So he's gathering together all our news clips and all our news articles, and he'll be doing interviews with the board members and so on. So that'll be a nice package for getting others interested. Maybe something we could have started earlier, but we're limited in terms of the folks we have. Victor, unless people have more questions for Dr. Bob, I was going to go ahead and run the clip of the movie Cuba and Alaska. Bob, were you able to verify those numbers?
Yeah, I think that's about right.
Yeah. So I think maybe a question coming up from
Question,
Katerina.
please.
Just a huge thank you, Dr. Bob. Every time you come on and explain things, I feel so much more knowledgeable and more educated. And I'm just very grateful to you for your wide-ranging expertise. It was incredibly helpful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. We're in this part of the history book, which future students will be probably very interested in if there is anyone left to study this history. But what can I say? We all are watching the news, and you said Ukraine is helping US on drone side. I see controversial indications from the news on that. Can you maybe elaborate on what you heard the last?
What I've heard, and I've not seen anything in detail on this, is that Zelensky has offered to help us with interceptor drones. The Ukrainians have done something remarkable. If you see these, they're really, really cool things. They have developed ways that as they track these Iranian drones as they come in, the Shahed, as they track these drones, they are able to launch counter drones, interceptor drones that have simple sensor systems and can actually accelerate pretty fast, which is kind of remarkable. All this is driven by battery technology, and they have been very successful in intercepting these. And it's the ratio of the cost of the drone to the cost of the attacker that matters. And John hit on this. The problem in air defense, the old saying in the military is the offender, the offensive missiles, they fire a bunch of garbage at you and you respond by firing Lamborghinis, because defense is just so expensive. that THAAD radar I talked about. That's like $300 to $500 million just for the radar. One Patriot battery is $1 billion. And so if the Ukrainians, and this is what I've heard, like I said, I haven't seen any verification of this. If this is what I've heard, this could be really important because those things are so easy to hide. They're so easy to launch. It's very difficult for even the extraordinary competence of the United States Air Forces over Iran to hunt them down and stop this through offensive action.
Can
Yeah,
you maybe, sorry, John, go ahead.
No, I was just going to follow that up. What I read was that the military was going through a procurement process, and that so that the Ukrainians would have to put together a proposal and present and so on. And it's understandable because guess what? Who are they competing with? Oh, I don't know, Raytheon and Lockheed Martin and all these big money people. So it'll be interesting how all that shakes out. Go ahead.
My question was, what have you heard, Bob, about the company that President's sons launched? I don't know how to pronounce it. It sounds like Harry Potter spelled Powerus, Power US.
Yeah,
Power us.
Yeah, I've forgotten it to be off the top of my head too. Yeah, that's one of the competitors.
Right.
Several months ago, Donald Trump Jr. invested a pretty big sum of money into a drone company, and I don't know if that will interfere with rapidly. You can get into some ideological battles with the administration here too, of not wanting to go to Ukraine for aid. I hope we overcome that. Because the Ukrainians can provide it very quickly.
What about underwater drones, the marine drones? Do you know if this technology is now actually limited to Ukraine? I think they're way ahead in that too.
Underwater drones I've actually been doing some investigation of this. What's driving all this is battery technology. Battery technology in conjunction with advanced sensors, and AI probably is going to play a role in some of this, although no one should listen to me too much on AI. I am not an expert on that, but underwater drones, I think, are going to revolutionize what's happening. And the Ukrainians began by the surface with these surface, like old speedboats. A lot of the earlier attacks are that, but now you're right. They are introducing underwater drones, almost like torpedoes that can find their own targets. What makes an escort mission in the Gulf very, very difficult, in a lot of ways, it's what the Russian Navy ran into, is it projecting force into littoral areas, into when you are moving your Navy very close to your opponent's home, you expose yourself to an extraordinary amount of fire from the land. We can go way through the history on this. The British at Gallipoli, when they tried to send British battleships through the strait and got blasted by Turkish forts. But now with battery power that can allow these things to linger for a really long time and then accelerate rapidly, just like those interceptor drones, projecting force into, and you have to understand, we talk about the strait as 21 miles wide. The strait is actually the navigable part of that strait is about 2 miles wide, where the water's deep enough. And even there, it's only 200 feet. Persian Gulf's really shallow. And it's just when you take a $2.7 billion Aegis destroyer, Arleigh Burke class destroyer, you are putting them into a very dangerous situation when you expose them to all of that, let alone the tankers loaded with oil make pretty simple targets. But I would hope Ukraine's helping us with that. I'm going to tell you right now, underwater drones are going to revolutionize war at sea.
So the draft in the New York harbor is about 50 feet. I don't know what a oil tanker requires, but I'm just
Yeah.
trying to do the math in my head. I would imagine it would make submarines kind of difficult to go in a 200-foot. They would be very exposed as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Iran has some submarines, they're old diesel electric subs. I don't even know if they've deployed. I doubt it, but I don't know. There was always some worry about that a diesel electric sub could loiter in the Gulf. Guys, we have been through this for so long. But you know, the only way you're going to get an escort mission done, I'll tell you this right now, is you have to occupy the eastern coast, the Persian Gulf coast of Iran. That's how you would do an escort mission.
And that would require boots on the ground.
Yes.
A lot.
We have a question there.
Yes, please, Anara.
You know, there are many analysts now, increasing number of analysts believe that Iran's war opens more opportunities for Russia, economy and military operation. And it's very likely, especially analysts from Europe, said that it's more likely that Russia can attack the Baltic states now. And that's why, what do you think might be within several months, and including the summer, if war continues in the Middle East? What is your expectation?
The window for the United States to come out of this with a win is narrowing. What we're seeing is a 21st century insurgency. This is a new kind of insurgency. I'm going to put a link in the chat to a foreign affairs article I literally just read by Robert Pape, who is like the expert on these things. If I can do it. The last time I tried to do this, it didn't work. I think I just did it. That I've gifted to everybody. The window for us to come out of this victoriously is narrowing. I think the president's going to be, within the next few weeks, the economic pain is going to get so great that the president will be determined, be driven to say, look, we've taken down their medium range and short range ballistic missile capability. That was the primary way they were threatening Israel and their neighbors. This is a victory. War's over. I think that's probably the most likely outcome. But the key there is, I'm not sure Iran wants the war to be over. I think Iran is going to try to insist on taking their pound of flesh. So they, in some ways, are in the driver's seat. Unless we can pound them so severely, they say, uncle. That's not out of the realm of possibility. But we will not achieve regime change. Regime change has never been achieved through the air. The RGC is going to remain in charge. We may kill the new Ayatollah Khamenei, but they will choose somebody else. The window for that to happen, I think, is narrowing. So I think President Trump will be tempted to do that. If the war goes on and oil prices escalate dramatically, this works dramatically in Russia's favor. I think the other winner from this is going to be Xi Jinping. I think the Chinese see America bogged down. Like I said, we are moving our THAAD batteries out of South Korea and moving them to the Middle East because the Russians have helped the Iranians target those. The South Koreans sacrificed a lot. When we put those in, the Chinese cut off trade and imposed sanctions and all kinds of things. They were furious about it because that THAAD radar is pretty capable. And if the war goes on, Putin and Xi emerge as the winner from this. Putin's economy will get that shot of adrenaline that it needed. I mean, the Russian economy is totally dependent on oil.
Mm-hmm.
And will it lead to an attack on the Baltics? I have no hesitation in saying I think that is Putin's ultimate goal, is to take the Baltics back and to link, you've talked about it yourself, that link Kaliningrad back to the rest of Russia. And if his army's still bogged down in Ukraine, it's a little more difficult to do. But it will, the revival of the Russian economy that comes from the shot in the arm they get from higher oil prices will empower Putin. And it empowers the continued America to be continued to bog down in another Middle East war, is draining us of what we need to face the real strategic. Iran is at best a second order threat to American national security interests, at best. The real threats are Russia and China. And we're taking patriots out of the Far East. We were told all along, Elbridge Colby and the folks in DOD told us all along, we can't give patriots to the Ukrainians because we need them for a potential war over Taiwan. We are now doing that because of the war with Iran. So the longer the war goes on, the more the winner emerges. The winners are Putin and Xi Jinping. So we need to find a way to end this thing. But if the IJC stays in charge, if Ayatollah Khamenei is in place, we just killed his father, his mother, his wife, and his son. If he stays in charge, Iran will resume their nuclear program and will try to race to build a bomb. I'm almost certain of that. I was just listening to an former Israeli intelligence official that made that exact prediction. There's no military solution to nuclear weapons. There's no technological solution to nuclear weapons. The only solution are political, maintaining the U.S. system of alliances and rebuilding the arms control process. We're not going to fight our way out of this.
Thank you.
Well, that may be a good segue to, and thank you, Dr. Bob, for being part of this. And we got another question, or no, we don't. Sunflower Seeds has been blessed to have Dr. Bob on our board. Not only does he bring this level of intelligence in both ways, but he just shows up when we need him to volunteer to help sell T-shirts. So he's a man for all seasons. And thank you. That might be a good segue, though, to go ahead and show that clip of the movie. And we'll see what boots on the ground look like. And afterwards I'll try to supplement some of the things you saw, because it may not, the subtitles may not pick up, although some of you know Ukrainian, so you don't need that. Victor, can you make that happen, or Larry?
In a second, I'm doing. Thank you very much. So we're showing the clip, the trailer to Cuba and Alaska, the documentary, the prize-winning documentary, which, as John said, will be screened several times here in Huntington, West Virginia. And we are so proud in this community to have one of these remarkable women, called name Cuba, as our adopted medic for charity support. Thank you, Sunflower Seeds, Tri-State Aid for Ukraine. Thank you all for being with us today and watching this in recording. We now show the trailer.
We're not seeing anything yet, Victor.
Yeah, Victor, if you're sharing your screen, we don't see it.
Can you hear us, Victor?
I'm sorry. You're saying nothing is showing?
Correct.
It's a
Yes.
blank screen.
I'm sorry. That's strange. But we've seen it before, right? Sorry about this.
Well, so the screen's not sharing. It could just be that. The screen's not sharing.
Okay. Sorry. 1 second.
Thanks for trying.
I'm doing this. No. It'll be fine.
Thank you, Dean Deutsch, for I was watching too, thinking about the delay. Thank you for for prompting this.
Yes, because I was share screen. Share screen.
And right now there we go. Oh wow. Oh
До
wow.
нових пригод.
Oh my gosh. To new adventures.
1 moment. Do you hear it?
Yeah,
Okay.
perfectly.
Here we go.
Cuba, Alaska.
А там не стікає, то ніде. Не треба рятувати весь світ. Пробуй урятувати хоча б когось.
Я ходила з африкосами і дуже сильно засмагала, і потім з часом просто почали називати Куба і все. Ну, я не знаю, чому Аляска.
Далекое отмороженное.
О, Куба.
Я есть.
Баранчичек, я тебя спасу.
Но жить он тут не будет.
Почему?
Вы можете к себе в комнату брать, потому что он жестко пердит и храпит.
Как и вы все.
Почему-то в цивильном городе чувствуешь себя более уязвимым.
Звезда этого мероприятия – це однозначно ти. Кого на фронті малюєш скетч.
Тут здам свой экзамен, я просто прячусь от людей.
О Боже, який жах.
Це історичний момент.
У меня страх облажаться сильнее, чем страх умереть. Аналогично.
Я вас всіх люблю.
Я вас всех,
І
сука,
все буде
ненавижу.
Україна, бля.
Все буде Україна.
Это наш дом. Аляска, обережно.
Надеюсь, что осколки быстро достанут, и как-то я быстро...
Ну, ты можешь попросить, чтобы тебя отпустили? Мам, ну це ж не то, що ти ж не в дитячому садочку і не в школі. Те, що смерть була за крок від тебе, потім усвідомлюєш, вже коли проходить доволі багато часу. Ти не думаєш і не сприймаєш, а потім, ох, нічого собі.
Ну, але я сподіваюся, що ми зробили щось гарне за це життя.
Ми ж не одну собачку врятували.
Не одну.
Цим можна пишатися.
Ти думаєш, нам в пеклі це зачтеться?
It's coming soon.
Wow. Wow.
That's that's a real teaser. Cuba was named Cuba actually before the war because she had a tan and she's dark haired and they thought she looked like a Cuban or so. And then Alaska was named Alaska because, as she said, she's distant and stone cold. It's interesting. The personal touches, you know, they save dogs and little rams as well. You see some of the things that are going on in their life. Alaska was there. She's studying to speak English, and so she's doing that online in the middle of being in the front lines. Again, you saw a bit about how Cuba is a fashion designer.
Which one's which?
Okay, Cuba is the dark-haired, dark-complected.
of course.
Alaska's the light-haired.
Of course, yes.
The fella at the end who's injured hugging Alaska his name is Artist. He was their driver for the ambulance. And I love the ending. You know, do you think we'll get credit for what we've done in hell? That's the last line of the movie. It shows there. If you've ever seen the movie Thelma and Louise, it's kind of like that, only a lot better. And we have a question.
Oh, wait,
from
before
Mr. Frank.
we go to question, I want to just point something out because I've seen this repeatedly, and I'm asking Victor and Anara, anyone who's familiar with, I think, with Russian or Ukrainian, to kind of verify this for me. I've seen in many places "Все буде Україна," and it can mean, "все" means everything. This is true, but "все" also means always. And for Ukrainians, we see "Все буде Україна." What we hear is Ukraine will always be, that Ukraine will continue to exist. But it's often translated as "Все буде Україна," everything will be Ukraine, which is very that's problematic, right? That sounds almost like conquest. It sounds almost like aggressive. And so, but everywhere I see it, if you put it into Google Translate or in Translate, you will get everything will be Ukraine. But that is, I don't, Victor, I don't think that's the correct meaning.
No, that's incorrect. Absolutely incorrect.
So we need to fix that. I see it everywhere. I see it everywhere. And so I don't know if it's too late to fix it in a documentary or put a note out there, because it's a very different meaning.
Absolutely. It's definitely just incorrect translation. That's it. Google Translate is getting much better, but I warn everyone, with Google Translate, there was a spy ring from Russia operating in Europe, and I just heard or South America, and I just heard from the news this morning that it was arrested. It was found because one of the spies used Google Translate. His Spanish was not good enough.
Oh, wow. But I think because the mistranslation of everything will be Ukraine, it implies sort of conquest aspirations, which Ukraine does not have. I think every war Ukraine's ever fought has been defensive. And so, well, thank you. Thanks for verifying that. Okay, Victor, back to you. Sorry for.
I finished. Thank you very much, John, for showing this to us, and we of course look forward to screening. It's amazing and needs to be known widely.
The fact that you have a girl with braces, a kid, and I don't know anybody looks younger when you put braces on, but these are kids, even though they're not kids. But it is just, they're girls laying in a field laughing like any other girls are in the midst of this absolute horror. And as you said, they're more afraid to fail than to die. And that is amazing. Amazing.
Thank you. I will ask Katerina now to say a few words to our viewers in Ukraine, please.
Дорогі браття і сестри в Україні, ми зберігаємо вас у наших щоденних думках і молитвах. Нехай милосердний Бог тримає вас у своїй опіці. До наступного тижня. Прощаємося.
Слава Україні!
Героям слава!
Heroim Slava.